When you think about Africa, you're hit with these two kind of contradictory ideas, right? On one hand, it's the cradle of humankind, literally where it all began for us. But then you also hear about so much struggle and poverty. So, how do you square those two things? How can both be true? That's exactly the puzzle we're going to unpack.
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? If humanity got a 7 million year head start in Africa, why isn't Africa, ruling the world today? It feels like the first runner off the starting block should be miles ahead of everyone else, but that's just not the reality we see. So what on earth happened? To figure that out, we've got to dig deep into history and even deeper into geography. All right, first things first, we need to get a real sense of just how massive this head start was. And we're not talking about one single event. This was a series of huge leaps forward spread out over millions and millions of years. So check this out. We're talking about 3 distinct head starts. It all kicks off 7 million years ago. That's when our ancient ancestors first split off from the apes, right there in Africa. Then, fast forward to 2 million years ago, and you've got Homo erectus, the first of our relatives to really venture out of the continent. And then, much more recently, around 75,000 years ago, our species, Homo sapiens, starts its big journey out of Africa to eventually cover the entire planet. Each one of these was a world-changing event. And this is where we hit that central paradox, that big puzzle. You'd think, with a head start that long, Africa would be the most developed, most advanced place on Earth, right? But the reality today just doesn't line up with that expectation. It's a completely different picture, and that's what makes this so fascinating. So, what happened? What was the big plot twist? Well, it turns out that around 10,000 years ago, the entire rulebook for human progress got thrown out the window. A completely new game started. And that game changer was the agricultural revolution. Think about it. The moment humans figured out how to domesticate plants and animals, everything, and I mean everything, changed. All of a sudden, you could have settled villages, populations could grow, and not everyone had to spend all day looking for food. You could have specialists, indenters, soldiers, leaders. It was a total transformation. And here's the kicker. All those millions of years of experience being expert hunter-gatherers, suddenly it just didn't matter as much. The race had been reset. This new competition was all about one thing: food production.
Okay, so if it's a new race, you'd want a fair start, right? Well, that's not what happened. The deck was stacked from the very beginning, not because of people, but because of something no one could control: the cold hard facts of geography and biology.
Okay, look at this. This simple difference in shape might be one of the most important factors in all of human history. Eurasia is wide, it runs east-west, so a crop like wheat, which first popped up in the Fertile Crescent, could spread like wildfire for thousands of miles. Why? Because the climate, the seasons, the length of the day, it's all pretty similar along that line. But Africa, it's long, it runs north-south. A crop that loves the Mediterranean climate in the north is going to hit the Sahara, then the tropics, and it's just not going to survive. That simple access, that shape, acted like a giant wall, stopping the spread of agriculture in its tracks. And it wasn't just about the crops either. What about animals? To really get an agricultural society humming, you need big animals for food, for plowing, for transport, even for war. And when you look at the candidates, Eurasia just hit the jackpot. They had cows, pigs, sheep, goats, horses, the whole shebang. Africa, for all its amazing wildlife, had almost zero animals that were suitable for domestication. I love this quote because it paints such a vivid picture. Just imagine, African armies fed by barnyard giraffe meat and backed by cavalry mounted on huge rhinos. It sounds wild, but it gets to the heart of the matter. It wasn't about a lack of trying or a lack of cleverness. It's just biology. You can't tame a zebra like you can a horse. They're just wired differently. The basic ingredients for that agricultural package just weren't there. And this is where it gets really ironic. So why did Africa have all these big, untamable animals, while places like the Americas and Australia lost theirs? Well, it's because those animals had millions of years to grow up alongside humans. They co-evolved. They learned that humans were dangerous and got really, really good at avoiding them. But when humans showed up on other continents for the first time, the local animals had no idea what was coming. They were easy pickings and got wiped out. So that huge head start in human evolution, it actually backfired, making it impossible to build a farm with the local wildlife. But that long, long history of humans and animals living side by side in Africa had another consequence, one that was even more dangerous than not having farm animals: a challenge that still casts a long shadow over the continent.
We're talking about disease. And Africa's unique disease burden comes down to two simple things. First, time. Millions and millions of years for microbes and animals to evolve and figure out how to make the jump to humans. And second, relatives. Our closest animal cousins, apes, monkeys, they're native to Africa. And germs have a much easier time jumping between closely related species. That combination is a recipe for creating some of the world's most devastating tropical diseases.
And just to pile on, there's one more big geographic hurdle. Look at this number, 15. That's how many countries in mainland Africa are landlocked. Think about that. No easy access to the sea, which has always been the superhighway of global trade. And even the big rivers they do have often aren't navigable all the way to the coast. It's just another massive barrier that history and geography put in the way.
Okay, so after hearing about all of these disadvantages, from the shape of the continent to the animals to the diseases, it'd be really easy to just feel pessimistic. But if we stop there, we're missing the most important part of the story, because the story isn't over. We need to talk about what comes next.
So, is Africa's tropical core doomed by its geography? Is it just destined to struggle forever? The evidence says absolutely not. Not even close. The potential there is just staggering.
So what does that potential look like? Well, you've got vast potential for hydroelectric power. You have that incredible wildlife, which is a huge engine for ecotourism. You have massive forests that, if managed well, can be a source of sustainable wealth for generations. But you know what the biggest resource is? The people. A young, growing, and more educated workforce than ever before. That's the real engine for the future. And here's what's so cool. Many of those old geographical disadvantages, we can actually leapfrog them now. For centuries, the lack of navigable rivers was a huge problem for trade and connection. But today, technology can build the bridges that geography couldn't. We're talking about everything from modern roads and rail to the internet, creating connections that were once impossible. And here's an advantage you might not think about. A legacy of its complex history means that in nearly half of all African countries, English is an official language. In today's globalized world, that is a huge asset. It makes it so much easier to attract service sector jobs and plug right into the international economy. And this isn't just theory, it's already happening. Look at this quote. It's from companies who figured out something really simple. They realized that protecting the health of their workers wasn't some kind of charity. It was an excellent business investment. It's simple, right? Healthy workers are productive workers. That helps the company, and it helps build a stronger local economy. And that really lays out the choice for the rest of the world, doesn't it? We can keep doing what we've been doing, reacting to crises with perpetual aid and military interventions, which is thousands of times more expensive, or we can choose a different path. We can be proactive and invest in solving health problems and supporting development from the ground up. It's not just the right thing to do. It's the smartest and most cost-effective thing to do. Because at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. In the world we live in now, you can't just build a wall and pretend what happens on an entire continent doesn't affect you. It does. A healthier, safer Africa means a healthier, safer world for all of us. Their success is our success. So I want to leave you with one final question to chew on. When you think about how connected everything is, from the global economy to, global pandemics, you have to ask, is investing in Africa's health and future not just a nice idea, but maybe the single best investment we can make for our own?